Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars drift past through the main view screen. Her ship was one of only 12 human warships allowed to exist under the Treaty of Proxima. The treaty had been signed 87 years ago, after humanity's rapid expansion across the galaxy had frightened the other species in the Galactic Federation. The Federation was supposed to be a peaceful alliance. 47 different alien species worked together to keep order in the galaxy through talk and compromise. They had small defense fleets, just enough to handle pirates and minor disputes. Nobody was supposed to have weapons that could destroy planets or fleets that could conquer star systems. Elena remembered her history lessons. Humans had been different when they first joined the Federation. They built big ships with powerful weapons. They expanded fast, claiming new worlds and building military bases. The other species got scared. They said humans were too aggressive, too dangerous. So they made the treaty. Under the Treaty of Proxima, humanity could only have 12 warships. Each ship could only carry certain types of weapons. No planet killers, no reality warping technology, no dimensional weapons. Just basic lasers, missiles, and shields. Enough to help with Federation peacekeeping, but not enough to threaten anyone. Elena had served on the Defiance for 8 years. She was proud of her ship and crew, but sometimes she wondered what human ships had been like before the treaty. The old veterans never talked about it much. They just got a distant look in their eyes and changed the subject. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen was monitoring communications at her station. Ensign Rodriguez was tracking nearby ships. Everything was normal until the emergency beacon started flashing. "Captain," Chen called out, her voice tense. "I'm receiving a distress signal from the Kepler 442 system. It's not from one ship. It's from the entire planetary defense force." Elena felt her stomach drop. A whole system calling for help meant something very bad was happening. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Kethvar, a reptilian saurian who commanded the Outer Rim Defense Forces. His usually calm demeanor was gone. His scales were pale with fear. "This is Admiral Kethvar to any Federation ships in range," the message began. "Kepler 442 is under attack by unknown forces. They're not like anything we've seen before. Our weapons have no effect. They're consuming everything. Planets, moons, space stations. Everything just disappears into these massive ships. We need immediate assistance. Please, if anyone can hear this." The transmission cut to static. Elena stared at the screen. In her 8 years of service, she had never heard an admiral sound that terrified. "Chen, how far are we from Kepler 442? 4 hours at maximum speed, Captain. Plot a course. Full speed ahead." Elena turned to Rodriguez. "Send a message to Federation Command. Tell them we're responding to the distress call." The Defiance jumped to faster than light speed. Elena paced the bridge, thinking about what they might find. The Outer Rim was supposed to be safe. There hadn't been a major threat to the Federation in over 50 years. Pirates, yes. Occasional border disputes, yes. But nothing that could scare an entire star system. 3 hours later, they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made Elena's blood run cold. Where there should have been 7 planets, only 3 remained. The others were simply gone. Not destroyed, gone. There were no debris fields, no asteroid belts, just empty space. And moving between the remaining planets were ships unlike anything Elena had ever seen. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Their hulls were black and seemed to absorb light itself. Strange geometric patterns covered their surfaces, patterns that hurt to look at directly. As Elena watched, one of the ships extended what looked like a mouth toward the 4th planet. Energy beams shot out and the planet began to break apart. But instead of exploding, the chunks of rock and metal flowed into the ship like water. "What are those things?" Rodriguez whispered. Before Elena could answer, the communication system crackled to life. But the voice that came through wasn't human or any other Federation species. It was something else entirely. "More food arrives. Small food, weak food. You will be consumed like the others." Elena grabbed the communication console. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Defiance. Identify yourself and explain your actions in this system." There was what might have been laughter. "We are the Devourers. We have slept for 10,000 years. Now we wake. Now we feed. Your Federation's time is ending." The largest of the alien ships began turning toward them. Elena could see weapon ports opening along its hull. The Defiance's sensors were going crazy, detecting energy levels that shouldn't be possible. "Captain," Chen said quietly, "I'm reading weapons signatures unlike anything in our database. Power levels are off the charts. If that thing fires at us," Elena didn't need her to finish. The Defiance was a good ship, but it was built for peacekeeping missions. These things had just eaten entire planets. "All hands prepare for emergency jump. Get us out of here." The Defiance's FTL drive spun up just as the alien ship fired. Elena caught a glimpse of a beam of pure darkness shooting toward them before the ship jumped away. They emerged near a Federation communications relay station. Elena immediately sent an emergency message to Federation Command on Centauri Prime. She included all their sensor data from the Kepler 442 system. The response came back 6 hours later. Elena read it twice before she could believe it. The Federation Council had reviewed her report. They were forming a joint task force to investigate. All available Federation ships were being recalled to defensive positions around core worlds. The Defiance was ordered to return to Earth immediately. Elena looked at the message again. A joint task force. Defensive positions. They were treating this like a normal military problem, but those things had consumed entire planets like they were snacks. The Federation's small defense fleets wouldn't stand a chance. During the 3-day journey back to Earth, more reports came in. The Devourers had hit 2 more systems. Each time they consumed everything and moved on. Federation ships that tried to stop them simply disappeared. As Earth grew larger on the view screen, Elena felt a mix of relief and worry. Relief to be home, but worry about what was coming. The Devourers were heading toward the core worlds of the Federation. Billions of lives were at stake. She thought about the treaty that limited human military power. Maybe the other species had been right to be afraid of humanity. But right now, Elena wished they had more than 12 small warships to defend against whatever was coming. The Defiance docked at Earth's orbital command station. Elena was ordered to report to Admiral Thompson immediately. As she walked through the station's corridors, she noticed something strange. There were a lot more military personnel than usual, and they all looked tense. Admiral Thompson was waiting for her in his office. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes, but there was something else in his expression. Something Elena couldn't quite identify. "Captain Vasquez," he said, "your report about these Devourers. Tell me everything you saw." Elena described the attack on Kepler 442. The Admiral listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Captain," he said finally, "what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. The Federation thinks they know humanity's full military capability. They're wrong. We've been preparing for something like this for a very long time." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Sir?" Admiral Thompson activated a holographic display. It showed star charts she didn't recognize with red markers in dozens of systems. "The Treaty of Proxima limited our official fleet. It said nothing about what we might build in secret." Elena stared at the holographic display showing hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Her mind struggled to process what Admiral Thompson was telling her. "Sir, are you saying we've been violating the Treaty of Proxima?" "Not violating. Working around it." The Admiral touched a control, and the display zoomed in on a system she didn't recognize. The treaty said we could only have 12 official warships. It didn't say anything about research vessels, mining ships, or exploration craft. The display showed massive structures floating in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. They looked like shipyards, but bigger than anything Elena had ever seen. Some were the size of small moons. "For 87 years we've been building," Thompson continued. "Not just ships, weapons, technology. Things the Federation can't imagine." He paused, looking directly at Elena. Things that would terrify them if they knew. Elena felt dizzy. "How many ships are we talking about?" "The human war armada consists of over 3,000 vessels. Dreadnoughts that can crack planets in half. Carriers that launch fighter swarms capable of taking down entire fleets. Ships equipped with weapons that bend reality itself." The door to the office opened and another man entered. He was shorter than Thompson, with dark skin and steel-gray eyes. Elena had never seen him before, but something about him made her straighten to attention. "Captain Vasquez," Thompson said. "Meet Admiral Marcus Chen, commander of Shadow Fleet operations." Admiral Chen nodded to Elena. "Captain, Your report about the Devourers has accelerated our timeline considerably. These creatures represent exactly the kind of threat we've been preparing for. Shadow Fleet operations? Elena asked. A secret division within Earth's military, Chen explained. While the Federation thought they had neutered humanity's military power, we've been building the most advanced fleet in galactic history. Ships that exist in parallel dimensions until called. Weapons that can rewrite the laws of physics in localized space. Soldiers trained in tactics the Federation considers impossible. Thompson activated another display. This one showed recent reports from across the galaxy. Red markers indicated Devourer attacks. In just 1 week, they had consumed 12 star systems. The Federation's response has been predictable, Thompson said. Joint task forces. Diplomatic overtures. They're trying to understand these creatures and reason with them. Meanwhile, billions are dying. Elena studied the tactical displays. The Federation fleets can't stop them? Yesterday, Admiral Kethvar led a combined fleet of 200 ships against a Devourer formation, Chen answered. They were completely destroyed. The aliens didn't even slow down. The reality of the situation hit Elena. The Federation's peaceful approach to galactic security worked when dealing with reasonable opponents. But the Devourers weren't interested in negotiation. They just consumed everything in their path. What do you need from me? Elena asked. The Federation Council is meeting tomorrow on Centauri Prime, Thompson said. They're going to ask for humanity's help, but they'll want to limit our response to the 12 official ships. We need someone there who's seen the Devourers up close. Chen leaned forward. Captain, if we're going to stop this threat, we need to deploy the full war armada. But that means revealing what we've built. It means showing the galaxy that humanity's true military power makes every other species look like children playing with toys. Elena understood the implications. And after the Devourers are gone, what happens then? That depends on how the other species react, Thompson said quietly. Some will be grateful. Others will be terrified. All of them will know that the balance of power in the galaxy has changed forever. The journey to Centauri Prime took 2 days. Elena spent the time reviewing classified files about humanity's secret military development. What she read amazed and horrified her in equal measure. The human war armada wasn't just larger than the Federation imagined. It was fundamentally different. Human scientists had developed technology that other species considered impossible or immoral, weapons that could phase matter out of existence, ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, fighter craft that operated with artificial intelligence so advanced it bordered on true consciousness. The files also revealed the scope of the deception. For nearly 9 decades, humanity had maintained the illusion of compliance with the Treaty of Proxima, while secretly building the most powerful military force in galactic history. They had done it using resources from dead systems, asteroid mining operations, and technology trading with species outside the Federation. When the Defiance arrived at Centauri Prime, Elena could see the effects of the crisis. Ships from dozens of species crowded the orbital space around the planet. Everyone was scared, and everyone was looking for solutions. The Federation Council met in a massive chamber designed to accommodate representatives from all member species. Elena sat in the observation section as delegates argued about response strategies. The Centauri Chancellor called for increased diplomacy. The Altarian representative wanted to evacuate core worlds. The Vegan ambassador suggested building a defensive line around the galactic center. Then the Saurian Admiral Kethvar spoke. Elena barely recognized him. The proud military officer who had fought the Devourers looked broken. Honored delegates, he said, his voice shaking, I've seen these creatures fight. Our weapons pass through their ships like they're not there. Their technology is beyond our understanding. They consumed my entire fleet in minutes. He paused, scales pale with remembered terror. We need help that none of our traditional allies can provide. The chamber fell silent. Elena knew what was coming next. Chancellor Maboto of Centauri stood up. We call upon our human allies to provide additional military assistance. We know the Treaty of Proxima limits their fleet size, but perhaps temporary exceptions could be made. Elena watched as Admiral Sarah Martinez, humanity's official Federation representative, stood to respond. Martinez was part of the deception, but the other delegates didn't know that. The Federation has our full support, Martinez said. However, our 12 ships would make little difference against a threat that destroyed Admiral Kethvar's fleet. Unless... She paused dramatically. unless the Federation Council is willing to temporarily suspend certain treaty restrictions. The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates supported the idea. Others worried about giving humanity too much freedom. The Altarian representative stood up angrily. The treaty exists for good reason, he declared. Human military ambition nearly destabilized the galaxy once before. We cannot risk that again. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. Here they were, facing extinction, and the aliens were still worried about human power. She stood up before she could stop herself. Permission to address the council, she called out. Chancellor Maboto looked surprised but nodded. Captain Vasquez, you witnessed the Devourer attack. Please share your observations. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on her. She thought about what she had seen at Kepler 442. Entire planets consumed like food. The casual way the Devourers had dismissed her ship as small food. Honored delegates, she began. I've seen what these creatures can do. They don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They don't show mercy. They consume everything and move on. Your fleets, your diplomacy, your defensive strategies, none of it matters to them. She looked directly at the Altarian representative. You're worried about human military power? Right now, I wish we had more of it. Because at the rate the Devourers are moving, they'll reach Centauri Prime in 3 weeks, then Earth, then every core world in the Federation. The chamber was silent. Helena continued. The treaty was written for a different time against a different threat. If we don't adapt, if we don't use every weapon and every ship available, there won't be a Federation left to protect. She returned to her seat as the delegates began arguing again. But Elena could see the fear in their alien faces. They knew she was right. The question was whether they would act on it before it was too late. Admiral Martinez stood again. The human government is prepared to provide additional military assets, but only with full Federation authorization. We won't act unilaterally. It was a clever move. Humanity would deploy the War Armada, but only if the Federation asked for it. That way, they couldn't be accused of treaty violations later. The vote took 6 hours of debate. In the end, fear won over caution. The Federation Council voted to temporarily suspend the military restrictions in the Treaty of Proxima. As Elena left the chamber, she wondered if the aliens understood what they had just authorized. They thought they were asking for a few more human ships. They had no idea they had just unleashed the most powerful military force in galactic history. 3 days after the Federation Council vote, Elena found herself aboard the UES Ragnarok, flagship of the human war Armada. The ship was so massive that the Defiance could have fit in one of its hangar bays. As she walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever, Elena struggled to comprehend the scale of what humanity had built in secret. Admiral Chen met her in the primary command center. The room was the size of a football stadium, with holographic displays showing the positions of over 3,000 human ships. Officers moved between workstations with practiced efficiency, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Captain Vasquez, Chen said, welcome to humanity's true navy. What you see here represents 90 years of preparation for this exact moment. Elena stared at the tactical displays. The human war armada was unlike anything she had imagined. The ships were enormous, bristling with weapons that Federation databases didn't even have names for. Dreadnoughts the size of asteroids, carriers that launched swarms of fighter craft numbered in the thousands, destroyer squadrons equipped with reality manipulation technology. Sir, how did we hide all this from the Federation? Carefully, Chen replied. Every ship was built in dead space far from shipping lanes. We used automated construction systems in asteroid fields. Resources came from mining operations in systems the Federation considered worthless. It helped that most alien species never bothered to explore beyond their established trade routes. A communication officer approached. Admiral, we're receiving updates from Recon Squadron 7. The Devourers have consumed the Tau Ceti system. They're moving toward Proxima Centauri. Chen nodded grimly. How long until they reach the core worlds? At their current speed, 12 days. Elena felt her stomach tighten. Proxima Centauri was one of humanity's oldest colonies. 2 billion people lived there, sir, she said. Are we going to be able to stop them, Captain? You've seen what the Federation's fleets can do against these creatures. Nothing. Their weapons pass right through Devourer ships. Their shields might as well be tissue paper. Chen gestured to the tactical displays. But we've had almost a century to think about threats the Federation couldn't imagine. He activated a display showing weapon specifications. Elena's eyes widened as she read the technical details. Phase cannons that could shift targets out of normal spacetime. Gravity bombs that created miniature black holes. Quantum torpedoes that struck targets across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Devourers exist partially outside our reality, Chen explained. That's why conventional weapons don't work. But our reality manipulation technology can reach them wherever they are. A warning klaxon sounded throughout the ship. The communication officer turned to Chen with urgent news. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the Proxima Centauri system. The Devourers have arrived early. They're attacking the planet. Elena felt cold. 2 billion people. Her sister lived on Proxima Centauri with her family. Chen's expression hardened. Signal the fleet. We're moving to intercept. All ships. Maximum speed to Proxima Centauri. The human war armada jumped to faster than light speed. Elena had experienced FTL travel many times, but never with ships this large and powerful. The Ragnarok moved through space like a force of nature. They emerged from FTL at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. What Elena saw made her blood boil with rage. The Devourers had already begun their attack. 5 of their massive ships surrounded the planet, extending their feeding appendages toward the surface. Cities were disappearing, consumed by the alien technology. Sir? Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. Request permission to join the attack. Chen looked at her. Captain, this is going to be unlike anything you've experienced. Are you sure you're ready? Elena thought about her sister. About the 2 billion people being consumed below. I'm ready, sir. Then take command of Strike Group 7. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity. Elena was transferred to the UES Retribution, a heavy cruiser designed for assault operations. As she took command of the bridge, she could see the rest of Strike Group 7 forming up around her. 12 ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Federation fleet. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez, she announced over the communication system. Target the Devourer vessels attacking the planet. Weapons free. The human war armada opened fire. Elena had never seen anything like it. The fleet's weapons didn't just fire energy beams or missiles. They fired possibility itself. Phase cannons shifted portions of Devourer ships into parallel dimensions where they ceased to exist. Gravity bombs created space-time distortions that tore the alien vessels apart at the molecular level. Quantum torpedoes struck targets that tried to phase out of reality, following them across dimensional boundaries. For the first time since the crisis began, the Devourers took damage. The alien ships, which had ignored Federation weapons completely, reeled under the human assault. Their dark hulls cracked and bled strange energies. One of the smaller Devourer vessels actually exploded, torn apart by a concentrated barrage from human dreadnoughts. Direct hit on target 2, reported the weapons officer. The alien ship is breaking apart. Elena felt a savage satisfaction. Finally, something that could hurt these monsters. But the Devourers adapted quickly. The remaining ships began to move in ways that defied physics, sliding between dimensions to avoid human weapons. They returned fire with beams of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. When the dark beams struck human ships, the results were devastating. The UES Thunderbolt, a heavy destroyer, simply vanished when one of the beams hit it. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Evasive maneuvers, Elena ordered. Don't let those beams touch us. The battle raged for hours. Human ships used their advanced technology to strike at the Devourers across multiple dimensions. The aliens responded with weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Ships vanished, reappeared, and fought battles that existed in several realities simultaneously. Elena watched as human fighter squadrons engaged Devourer scout craft in combat that looked more like a nightmare than a space battle. The fighters moved in impossible patterns, phasing in and out of visible space. Their weapons fired bullets made of compressed matter and energy beams that existed in 11 dimensions. Captain, the tactical officer called out, we're getting reports from the planet. The Devourer feeding has stopped. They're focusing on our fleet. Elena felt relief mixed with determination. The human attack had forced the aliens to stop consuming Proxima Centauri. Now they had to finish the job. Signal Admiral Chen, she ordered. Tell him we've got their attention. The reply came back immediately. All ships prepare for final assault. Deploy dimensional warfare systems. Elena had read about dimensional warfare in the classified files, but she had never seen it used. Human ships began to flicker in and out of normal space, existing in multiple realities simultaneously. They attacked the Devourers from angles that shouldn't exist, firing weapons through folded spacetime. The largest Devourer ship, the one that had been feeding on the planetary capital, turned its attention to the Ragnarok. It fired a beam of concentrated darkness that should have destroyed the human flagship instantly. Instead, the beam passed through empty space. The Ragnarok had shifted into a parallel dimension just before impact. Admiral Chen's voice came over the fleet communication system. All ships activate quantum disruptors. Let's send these things back to whatever nightmare they came from. The quantum disruptors were humanity's most powerful weapons. Elena watched as the entire human war armada fired them simultaneously. The weapons didn't just destroy matter. They unraveled the fundamental forces that held reality together in localized areas. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and devastating. Their ships, which had seemed nearly invulnerable, began to fall apart as the quantum disruptors attacked their very existence. The aliens' ability to phase between dimensions became a weakness as the human weapons followed them across multiple realities. One by one, the Devourer ships died. Not destroyed, unmade. They simply ceased to exist as the quantum disruptors tore apart the space-time they occupied. When the last alien ship vanished, the human war armada found itself alone in the Proxima Centauri system. Below, the planet was scarred but alive. Billions of people had been saved. Elena slumped in her command chair, exhausted. They had won, but the cost had been high. 17 human ships had been lost, along with thousands of crew members. "Captain," the communication officer said, "we're receiving a message from the Federation Council on Centauri Prime." Elena nodded. "Put it through." The face of Chancellor Mabato appeared on the screen. The alien leader looked shocked and slightly afraid. "Captain Vasquez," he said slowly, "we monitored your battle with the Devourers, your weapons, your tactics. This is not what we expected when we authorized additional human military assistance." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Sir, we used what was necessary to stop the threat." "Just as you authorized." There was a long pause. Elena could see other Federation officials in the background, all looking stunned. "Captain," the Chancellor said finally, "we need to talk. The Federation Council will reconvene immediately. We have questions about humanity's true military capabilities." The emergency session of the Federation Council was unlike anything Elena had ever witnessed. Representatives from 47 species filled the great chamber on Centauri Prime. But instead of their usual diplomatic courtesy, the air was thick with fear and suspicion. Word of the battle at Proxima Centauri had spread quickly, and everyone wanted answers. Elena sat in the witness section as Admiral Chen presented the after-action report. The holographic display showed tactical data from the battle, including detailed recordings of human weapons in action. Every time Chen activated a new display showing quantum disruptors or dimensional warfare systems, the alien delegates grew more agitated. "The quantum disruptors," said the Altarian representative, his blue skin pale with shock. "Those weapons don't just destroy matter. They unmake it. They attack the fundamental structure of reality itself." Chen nodded calmly. "That's correct. The Devourers existed partially outside normal spacetime. Conventional weapons couldn't touch them. We needed tools that could reach across dimensional boundaries." "And you've had these weapons for how long?" demanded the Vegan ambassador. "The first prototypes were developed 43 years ago. We've been refining the technology ever since." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Elena could hear accusations of treaty violations and demands for immediate explanations. Chancellor Maboto called for order, but it took several minutes for the delegates to calm down. "Admiral Chen," the Chancellor said, "when the Federation Council voted to suspend treaty restrictions, we expected a few additional ships with conventional weapons. What we've seen is a fleet that makes our combined navies look like toys. How do you explain this?" Chen activated another display, this one showing the construction timeline of the human war armada. "For 87 years, humanity has lived under restrictions designed to limit our military power. We accepted those restrictions, but we also recognized that they left the galaxy vulnerable to threats the Federation couldn't handle." The Saurian representative leaned forward angrily. So you decided to secretly build a military force capable of conquering the entire galaxy? We built a military force capable of defending the galaxy, Chen corrected, against threats like the Devourers. And as recent events have proven, that defense was necessary. Elena watched the debate with growing frustration. These aliens had begged for human help when their own fleets failed. Now they were complaining because that help was more effective than they expected. The Centauri defense minister stood up. Admiral, your weapons are terrifying. The quantum disruptors alone could depopulate entire worlds in minutes. The dimensional warfare systems could attack targets anywhere in the galaxy without warning. How can we trust that humanity won't use these capabilities against us? Elena had heard enough. She stood up and requested permission to address the council. Permission granted, Chancellor Mambodo said, though he looked reluctant. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. She could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her, most filled with suspicion and fear. Honored delegates, she began. 3 weeks ago, I watched the Devourers consume entire planets. Your fleets tried to stop them and failed. Billions of people died while you debated diplomatic solutions. She gestured toward the tactical displays. These weapons you're so afraid of? They save Proxima Centauri. 2 billion lives that would have been lost if we had relied on conventional Federation military doctrine. The Altarian representative interrupted. But at what cost? You've destabilized the entire galactic balance of power. Every species in this chamber is now wondering if they need to develop weapons like yours just to survive. Maybe you should, Elena said bluntly, because the Devourers aren't gone. Intelligence reports show that what we fought at Proxima Centauri was just a scouting force. The main fleet is still out there somewhere beyond the galactic rim. The chamber fell silent. This was new information, and Elena could see the fear returning to alien faces. Admiral Chen stood up. Captain Vasquez is correct. Our analysis of Devourer technology suggests we've only encountered their advanced scouts. The main force could number in the thousands of ships, each one larger and more powerful than what we've already faced. The implications sank in quickly. If the scouts had been powerful enough to defeat entire Federation fleets, what would the main force be capable of? How long do we have? Asked the Chancellor quietly. Unknown, Chen replied. Could be months, could be years. But they're coming. Elena looked around the chamber at the alien delegates. She could see the moment when political calculation overcame fear of human power. They needed the human war armada, and they knew it. The debate continued for 3 more days. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Federation would officially recognize humanity's expanded military role, but with oversight and restrictions. Human ships could operate freely when fighting external threats like the Devourers, but any use of advanced weapons against Federation members would be considered an act of war. Elena thought it was a reasonable agreement, but she could see that many delegates remained unhappy. The Altarians walked out of the final session. Several other species announced they were reviewing their Federation membership. As Elena prepared to return to her duties with the War Armada, she received an encrypted message from Admiral Thompson on Earth. The content made her blood run cold. Captain, satellite arrays in the Magellanic Clouds have detected massive energy signatures moving toward our galaxy. Preliminary analysis suggests a fleet of at least 5,000 ships. ETA 8 months. We need to accelerate preparations immediately. Elena forwarded the message to Admiral Chen and requested immediate reassignment to deep space reconnaissance. If the main Devourer fleet was that large, humanity would need every advantage they could get. 6 weeks later, Elena found herself aboard the UES Phantom, one of humanity's most advanced stealth ships, conducting surveillance deep in unexplored space. What her crew discovered there changed everything they thought they knew about the threat they were facing. The Devourer main fleet was even larger than intelligence had estimated. Elena counted over 8,000 ships, each one dwarfing the scouts they had fought at Proxima Centauri. But size wasn't the worst part. Captain, the science officer, reported, the Devourer fleet isn't just moving randomly. They're following a specific course toward Federation space, and they're coordinating with something. What do you mean, coordinating? The officer activated a long-range sensor display. There are energy signatures throughout this region of space. Hidden installations, communication relays, supply depots. The Devourers have been preparing for this invasion for a very long time. Elena studied the sensor data. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an alien force looking for food. This was a planned military campaign designed to consume the entire galaxy. "Get us back to the fleet," she ordered. "Admiral Chen needs to see this immediately." The journey back to human space took 2 weeks. During that time, Elena and her crew analyzed everything they had discovered. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The Devourers weren't just ancient aliens that had woken up hungry. They were a technological civilization that had been planning galactic conquest for millennia. Their ability to consume matter and energy wasn't just feeding, it was resource gathering for their war machine. When Elena presented her findings to Admiral Chen aboard the Ragnarok, his expression grew darker with each piece of evidence. "A planned invasion," he said quietly, "with established supply lines and strategic objectives." "Yes, sir. And there's more." Elena activated another display. "We detected at least 12 different Devourer ship classes, including ones we haven't seen before. Fortress ships the size of small moons, factory ships that can build new vessels from consumed matter, command ships with reality manipulation capabilities that make our quantum disruptors look primitive." Chen stared at the tactical projections. "How long until they arrive?" 6 months, maybe less. "They're moving faster than our initial estimates." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was grim. "Captain, I want you to personally brief the Federation Council on these findings. They need to understand what's coming." Elena's return to Centauri Prime caused another emergency session. When she presented the intelligence data about the true scale of the Devourer threat, several delegates became physically ill. The Centauri Chancellor had to call for multiple recesses as the implications sank in. 8,000 ships, the Vegan ambassador whispered, each one capable of consuming entire star systems. "How can we possibly defend against that?" "We can't," Elena said bluntly. "Not with conventional tactics or limited forces. This is going to require everything we have and more." The Saurian representative, who had been one of humanity's harshest critics, spoke up. "What do you recommend?" Elena looked around the chamber. "Total mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we can bring to bear. The human war armada will lead the defense, but we'll need support from every Federation member." "And if we lose?" asked the Chancellor. Elena met his gaze steadily. "Then the galaxy dies, all of it. Every world, every civilization, every living thing. The Devourers don't take prisoners. They don't leave survivors. They consume everything and move on." The vote was unanimous this time. The final battle for the galaxy began at the edge of the Orion Arm, where the combined forces of the Federation made their last stand. Elena stood on the bridge of the UES Ragnarok, now serving as Admiral Chen's strategic coordinator. Around them, the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for what everyone knew would be humanity's ultimate test. The numbers were staggering. The human war armada had grown to over 4,000 ships through emergency construction programs. Federation allies contributed another 6,000 vessels of various sizes and capabilities. Against them came the Devourer main fleet, 8,300 ships that had consumed entire civilizations to fuel their war machine. All fleet commanders, "This is Admiral Chen." The announcement echoed across 11,000 ships. "Today we decide the fate of every living thing in our galaxy. The Devourers have shown no mercy to any world they've encountered. We will show them none in return." Elena watched the tactical displays as the Devourer fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. The alien ships were even more terrifying than the intelligence reports had suggested. The largest vessels were the size of small planets, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that seemed to bend space around them. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the Devourers are deploying in a formation we haven't seen before. It looks like they're trying to surround our entire position." Chen studied the display. "They're not just trying to destroy us. They want to prevent any ships from escaping to warn other galaxies." The first shots came from the Federation's outer perimeter. Saurian heavy cruisers opened fire with plasma cannons, trying to disrupt the Devourer advance. The alien ships absorbed the energy attacks without slowing down, their hulls seeming to drink in the plasma beams. "Phase 1 is a failure," Elena announced. "Conventional weapons are still ineffective. Begin Phase 2, Chen ordered. All human ships deploy dimensional warfare systems." The human war armada shifted tactics. Ships began flickering in and out of normal space, attacking the Devourers from multiple realities simultaneously. Quantum torpedoes struck targets across dimensional boundaries, while gravity bombs created space-time distortions throughout the alien formation. For a moment, it looked like the strategy was working. Several smaller Devourer ships were destroyed, their hulls torn apart by attacks they couldn't defend against. But then the aliens adapted. "Sir," the science officer called out urgently. "The Devourers are deploying some kind of reality anchor. They're stabilizing space-time around their fleet." Elena watched in horror as the human dimensional attacks began to fail. The Devourers had found a way to lock space into a single reality, preventing human ships from phasing between dimensions. "All ships, fall back to Phase 3, Chen ordered. "Deploy the prototype weapons." Phase 3 was humanity's desperate gambit. Deep space construction facilities had been working around the clock to build weapons based on captured Devourer technology. The results were horrifying even by human standards. The UES Apocalypse, a massive dreadnought, fired the first reality disruptor. The weapon didn't just unmake matter. It attacked the concept of existence itself within a localized area. Where the beam struck, a section of a Devourer ship simply stopped being real. But the aliens had weapons just as terrible. A Devourer fortress ship fired something that Elena's sensors couldn't even identify. The beam struck the Federation cruiser Centauri's Pride, and the ship began to age rapidly. Elena watched in horror as the vessel crumbled to dust in seconds, its crew dying of old age before they could even scream. "Time weapon," the science officer whispered. "They're weaponizing entropy itself." The battle became a nightmare of impossible physics and reality-bending destruction. Human ships fired bullets made of compressed space-time. Devourer vessels launched missiles that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Federation allies found themselves caught in the crossfire of technologies they couldn't understand. "Sir," Elena said, checking casualty reports, "we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. At this rate, we'll be overwhelmed in 4 hours." Chen's expression was grim. "Then we move to the final option." Elena felt her blood turn cold. The final option was something that had been discussed only in the most classified meetings. A weapon so dangerous that using it might damage the fundamental structure of reality itself. "Sir, the universal disruptor is still experimental. We don't know what the side effects might be. Captain, if we don't use it, there won't be a universe left to worry about side effects." Chen activated a special communication channel that connected directly to Earth's planetary command center. "This is Admiral Chen to Shadow Command. Authorization Omega 77. Deploy the universal disruptor." The response came back immediately. "Confirmed, Admiral. Universal disruptor is launching now." Elena watched the tactical display as something emerged from Earth's orbital space. It wasn't a ship in any conventional sense. It was a construct of pure energy and folded space-time, carrying within it the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever created. The universal disruptor was based on theories that most scientists considered impossible. It was designed to attack the quantum foundations that held reality together, creating a cascade effect that would unmake anything within its area of effect. "All human ships, fall back to minimum safe distance," Chen ordered. "Federation allies, retreat immediately. This is about to get very dangerous." The construct reached the center of the battlefield and activated. Elena had expected an explosion or a beam of energy or some kind of visible effect. Instead, there was simply a moment when a spherical region of space stopped making sense. Within that sphere, the laws of physics became suggestions. Matter and energy existed in states that had no names. Time flowed in directions that shouldn't exist, and anything caught inside ceased to be real in any meaningful way. 2,000 Devourer ships vanished instantly. Not destroyed, erased from existence so completely that the universe itself forgot they had ever been there. But the weapon's effects didn't stop at the Devourers. Elena watched in horror as the reality distortion began to expand. "Sir," the science officer shouted, "the effect is cascading. It's growing larger." Chen grabbed the communication console. "Shadow Command, shut it down." "Shut it down now!" "Negative, Admiral. The disruptor is beyond our control. The cascade effect is self-sustaining." Elena stared at the expanding zone of impossible physics. If it continued to grow, it would consume everything. Human ships, alien vessels, planets, stars, eventually the entire galaxy. "There has to be a way to stop it," she said desperately. The answer came from an unexpected source. The remaining Devourer ships, instead of continuing their attack, turned their weapons on the reality distortion. Their entropy cannons and time weapons, designed to consume and unmake, began to devour the cascade effect itself. "They're eating it," Elena whispered in amazement. "They're actually consuming the reality breakdown." It took 6 hours for the combined Devourer fleet to completely absorb the Universal Disruptor's effects. When it was over, the battlefield had been fundamentally changed. 3,000 human ships remained, 2,000 Federation vessels survived, and facing them were just over 4,000 Devourer ships, battered, damaged, but still dangerous. "Both fleets are evenly matched now," Elena reported. "But sir, I don't think we can survive another engagement like that." Chen nodded grimly. "Captain, open a communication channel to the Devourer fleet." Elena stared at him. "Sir?" "Do it." The main screen flickered and showed the alien consciousness that spoke for the Devourers. Its voice was different now, less confident, more cautious. "Humans," it said slowly. "You created a weapon that could have unmade all existence." "Why?" Chen leaned forward. "Because that's what it takes to stop you. We will burn down reality itself before we let you consume our galaxy." There was a long pause. When the Devourer spoke again, Elena could hear something that might have been respect in its voice. "We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. Never have we encountered a species willing to risk universal destruction to defend their territory." "Then you understand our position," Chen replied. "Leave our galaxy and never return, or we will activate every reality-breaking weapon we have. We'll take you with us into whatever comes after existence." The negotiation took 2 days. In the end, the Devourers agreed to withdraw beyond the galactic rim and never return. In exchange, humanity would not deploy universal-scale weapons against them. Both sides would maintain an armed peace, each capable of destroying the other. As Elena watched the Devourer fleet disappear into the darkness between galaxies, she felt a mix of relief and unease. They had won, but at a cost that was hard to calculate. The galaxy would never be the same. The Federation had seen what humanity was truly capable of when pushed to the edge. Some species were grateful for the protection. Others were terrified of their protectors. "Admiral," Elena said as they prepared to return to Earth, "what happens now?" Chen looked out at the stars, where the scattered remains of the Federation fleet were beginning to regroup. "Now we live with the consequences," he said quietly. "The galaxy knows what we can do. They know we have weapons that can break reality itself. Some will see us as saviors. Others will see us as the next threat.